Hi guys, welcome to the chat. I hope you're doing well. Hopefully everything is working great. I got this really weird yellow sign. So if you guys see some buffering, just know that YouTube is experiencing some kind of issues. So bear with me tonight. Hopefully you guys can hear me. If you can hear me, feel free to let me know. That really does help. So I want to go back. Hello, Deb. Thank you for that. Thank you. I want to go back and welcome some of you. I see you're already chatting. I love when that happens. The end goal for me tonight, guys, is 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. So I'm going to try my very best to stay on task. Let me go back and just acknowledge some of you. I think that really gets conversation going. We have Alex Faith. Hello. Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you tonight. Chris Dunbar. Hello. Welcome to the chat. Hopefully I said your name correctly. I also see Sammy and Deb and VW. Hello. Welcome. Glad to have you tonight. Let me keep going, guys. Courtney Frazier and Light Inc. Z Productions. Hello, welcome. Glad to see you both. I haven't seen you both in a long time, so welcome. Fairy Girl and Cherry's Jubilee. Hello, welcome to the chat. Glad to see you as well. Yeah, you guys were keeping up a good conversation. My goodness. Hello, B and Dawn One. Hello, welcome. Glad to have you tonight as well. Okay, gotta keep going. I don't want to stay stuck on this, so I do want to move through this pretty quickly. I see Nancy Conway. Hello, welcome. Glad to have you. TJ, and it's been cold lately. Hello, welcome to you both. Glad to see you. Elizabeth and One Love. Hello, welcome. And R.A. Andrews, welcome to the channel. Three of you, glad to have you. Glad to have you. Oh, thank you so much, Deb. Says, we can hear you and see you as well. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. If there's any issues, let me know. Sammy says your hair looks amazing. I have blonde straight hair. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I decided to wear my hair straight. My mom's been saying, she's like, just let me straighten your hair. It'll be so long. And I'm like, you're not going to touch my hair. So I did it myself. I trust my mom. As a nurse, I don't trust her for my hair, but I let her do it, and so I'm wearing my straight hair today. So, thank you. I appreciate that. That's so sweet of you. Keegan Haven, hello, welcome to the chat. Glad to have you as well. Okay. So we have a lot of people. Ronald Zion and Cheryl, hello, welcome. So glad to see you. I'm gonna jump in because I can keep doing this all night. I'm gonna welcome you as we go along, because this is a pretty interesting topic. Boxes, bins, and lids, the cube. Hello, welcome. Glad to have you as well. Let me jump in, guys. Okay, because we have a lot to cover in like 30 minutes. This topic has been one of those topics where if you Google narcissism, if you Google sociopaths, if you Google psychopaths, you're never going to come up with the topic dark empaths. And one of the reasons why is because a lot of people, number one, are uninformed about what dark empathy actually is. And it doesn't really make sense for you to Google dark empaths when you can just Google narcissist, sociopath, or psychopath. You know what I mean, guys? So a lot of people do not know the dark empaths exist. So let me jump into the definition of what they are. So there's we call it the dyad, right? Or it's kind of like this three personality trait wheel, if you will. And there's three most important personality features of a dark empath, and that's psychopathy. We know what that is, right? I'm going to go over this a little bit later. So psychopathy, we have narcissism, and then we have that really big word that starts with an M. It's Machiavellianism. Narcissism, we know that there's various pieces to being a narcissist: covert, overt. We can also be a vulnerable narcissist. So there's many different elements of a narcissist, and I'm gonna post some of my previous videos in the description box after this live goes off tonight, so that you can, kind of go through some of my videos where I tease apart different narcissists. But so we know that's narcissism, right? And that's an individual who is entitled. They are, struggling with feelings of I won't even say struggling, because I don't think they struggle. I really don't. I think narcissists do what's comfortable to them. So I'm going to change that. So they are superior. I'll put it that way. They have this ideology that they are better than most people. They want to be the center of attention. They are cold. They are emotionally unavailable to other people. These are the kind of individuals who have children, and they are emotionally immature or emotionally detached as a parent. So that's another definition of the narcissist, or another characteristic we can kind of consider. Then we have psychopathy, and that's your Jeffrey Dahmer. That's your individual who methodically and strategically sets out to harm other people. They tend to be less clumsy and less clumsy than the sociopath, I should say, and more focused on gaining social approval, being superficially charming, and being exploitive. Okay, so that's the psychopath. Then we have Machiavellianism, which is kind of like this cynical, exploitive individual who gets pleasure from seeing other people harmed. So those are the three things you want to keep in mind: the psychopath, the narcissist, and those who have traits of Machiavellianism. Couple those together, and you've got a dark empath. Now, here's what's interesting, guys, about the dark empath. A lot of times these individuals seem loving, right? They seem loving, they seem caring, they seem invested, they seem emotional, right? And sometimes they'll cry. Sometimes these dark empaths will also set out to do things that are charitable, like donate or help a homeless person on the road, or, maybe buy a house for somebody, buy somebody a vehicle and give it to them. These dark empaths seem really loving most of the time. But here's what's interesting, and this is what research says. And a lot of my colleagues who study this more than I do, they have told me about this as well, that the dark empath can look to be one of the most loving and caring individuals, and yet they don't know how to empathize with your pain. They have what's called cognitive empathy, meaning that they can cognitively and intellectually understand what it is that you want from them. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they feel on the inside what it is that you want and you need. So take, for example, let's say your mom is a narcissist or a sociopath. Okay, she has traits of both. And you had a mom who seemed to be a really good mom when you were an infant, when you were under the age of 10, maybe even under the age of 14. You had a really loving, caring mom who gave you everything. You hit 15, and now you're starting to recognize that she is selfish. She acts superior to other people. She has an entitled mindset. She seems to enjoy other people, envying her or wanting to be her. She also seems to enjoy the gossiping that she does. She's controlling and manipulative. She triangulates. She's methodical, and she's strategic. And now you're trying to figure out how this loving, caring, wonderful mother turned out to be this way. She appears to be everything that you need her to be up until a certain point. And then you realize this is not a loving, caring, selfless person. This is an individual who's manipulative, calculating, strategic, right? Let's say you get into some trouble, and the selfish, narcissistic, entitled, superior behaving or acting mother comes to your rescue. She bails you out of jail, hugs you, and tells you that she loves you, but something on the inside of you feels off, right? This mom doesn't seem like she understands you, even though she's being caring. But she knows exactly what it is that you need from her. Does that make sense, guys? So she knows that you need to be bailed out of the bad situation that you're in. She knows that you're probably going to want a hug from her. She knows that you're probably going to benefit from some advice from your mom. She knows what to say to get you to feel comfortable again. She knows what to give you because she knows all your buttons. But it doesn't mean she's a loving, caring, stable parent, even though she has all those characteristics. A dark empath typically has some off, quotation marks, some off character traits that kind of gives you this feeling on the inside that this person is not genuine. So I want to make sure that I carefully differentiate between people who are loving and caring and connected. I want to make sure that I differentiate between those people and those people who seem to have those traits, but there is something about them that's off. So keep that in mind throughout this entire chat about a dark empath, whether that's a parent, a family member, a spouse. There's always going to be that one thing with them, that one piece of the puzzle, something feels off, you know? So that is the dark empath. Let me go to the chat box, guys. I want to make sure that I answer some of your questions, and the list goes on. Hi, anyways. Welcome to the chat. So glad to have you tonight. Hello. Yeah, yeah. Fairy Girl, that's a good point. Fairy Girl says cognitive empathy, emotional manipulation. Yeah, cognitive empathy really is emotional manipulation because here's what cognitive empathy does it only allows that person to conceptualize and intellectualize what it is that you want. They have studied society and they have studied the relationship and they have studied you so much that they know what you want. They know what you desire. They know you want to see a smile. They know you want to hear some kind comments. They know that you appreciate hearing please and thank you, right? They know that, they don't look like a criminal, so you're probably not going to be intimidated. They know that, you want somebody that you can trust and believe in and somebody that's going to be honest, right? A dark empath knows all those hot buttons that we all desire in another person. And this is why research in the field of psychology is starting to believe that the dark empath is the most dangerous personality trait out there. That three personality trait that we just talked about, the Machiavellianism, the narcissist, and the psychopath, excuse me. And so there's some research. I'll post it in the description box below for you so you can go back and look at it. But some clinical research is now finding that, they're starting to question, my field is starting to question, maybe this is the most dangerous person in our society because they can give you everything that it is that a trustworthy person would give you. But again, it's that one little piece of them that's off and it makes you feel a little bit like, ugh. I don't know, right? It's like, ooh, stay over there. I don't know if I like you, Or maybe it's a neighbor who's a dark empath and they're being nice, right? They're feeding your dog, they're petting your dog, they're giving you your mail, they're watching your house when you're on vacation. But when you get close to them and you have a conversation with them, maybe across the yard, there's something on the inside of you that just feels like, I'm done with this conversation. I don't care for you too much. So that's kind of the feeling you're going to get with a dark empath. But Fairy Girl is correct when she says cognitive empathy, I'm going to say equals emotional manipulation because it really does. It really does. Yeah, Cherry's Jubilee says fake empathy to get, I think you're trying to say ammunition that hurts the most. So I'm going to piggyback off that Cherry's Jubilee. I'm trying to say Fairy Girl and Cherry's Jubilee together. I need to go home. Cherry's Jubilee. I'm going to piggyback off of that because you're right. What a dark empath tends to do is they kind of get close to you, or if this is a parent or family member, they draw really near to you and they kind of get up under you and they learn about you and they start to get to know how you think and how you feel and how you process life. And then down the road, once you have caused excuse me, what's called a narcissistic injury or an ego threat, meaning that this dark empath feels that you have threatened them in some way, whether that's their attitude, whether that's, you've disrespected them in some way, maybe you've ignored them, maybe you stop answering their phone calls, whatever. If you've caused a narcissistic injury or an ego threat, that dark empath is probably going to get upset with you, go back in their mind, and think through some things that they've learned about you, and then turn it against you and use it. This is basically the process of most stalkers. This is what they do. Stalkers kind of, they have this desire to be powerful and to override their victims, right? And so what a stalker tends to do is, let's say they'll date you or they'll get to know you. They'll be a really close neighbor, maybe a really close friend, and they get to know everything about you and your routine. While the minute you reject them, right? And it doesn't really matter what kind of stalker it is. The minute you reject them, that's when they go on kind of like this emotional rampage, and now they're going to go back and try to find some dirt to dig up on you and hurt you with. And this is exactly what stalkers are made of. Most of them are dark empaths. We just don't label it dark empaths because this is kind of like a new concept, but most stalkers tend to be very much a dark empath. They're narcissistic, most of them. They are psychopathic, most of them. That's why they don't care about how they impact you when they stalk you, when they hurt you. And they have the trait of Machiavellianism. So they get this stimulation from stalking you and being an issue for you. There's a cynical and cold disregard for other people. They just don't care about them. So, Cherry's Jubilee, I think you're right about that for sure. Thank you for that one. That was a good one. Hello, the right group, SEO. Welcome to the chat. I've not seen you in so long on a live chat. Very glad to see you. Welcome. Legends That Last. I hope I got that right. Hello, welcome to the chat. So glad to see you as well. Yeah, absolutely. She says, always be at peace. Yes, thank you. And I hope the same for you. Thank you. All right, let me keep going, guys. Elizabeth, she says, I think dark empathy is when someone can understand another person's feelings but have no emotional drive to want them good. They just use their understanding to their advantage or to torture others. Absolutely. Absolutely. R.A., I very much agree with that, Elizabeth. R.A. Andrews says the dark empath is scary. Wonderful comment. Yes, it is. And here's why it's scary. And this is why my field is trying to do more research to understand it. It's scary because the dark empath, again, can seem like this really sweet, understanding person, but you're always going to get that intuitive feeling that says something is wrong here. There's just that one thing about you, and I can't put my finger on it, and I can't get other people to see with me that something's wrong with you because you look so good. You've seen those kind of people, right? Something's off. They're full of it. They're evil. They're manipulative, right? And maybe they've even executed some manipulation around you, but you just can't get other people to see it because they look so good. They look so good, And so that is the dark empath. So you're right, R.A. Andrews, the dark empath really is scary. And it could really make you feel crazy too, right? Because you may be looking at the dark empath thinking, okay, wait a minute. They donated to my local charity. They make a lot of money. Well, that's an attorney or a doctor or a lawyer or something, a judge. Why would they try to hurt society, right? And so then you go with that because that's the way society works. We look at people, we see what they do for a living, we think we understand them, and we believe them and we trust them and we think that they're okay when, again, there's just that one thing that's off. And you feel it, right? You can't always prove it. Yeah, One Love says fake, very fake narcissist. Oh, yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I had one dark empath when I was starting out in the field 13 years ago. And the dark empath wasn't a client, it was a coworker. And the reason why I say a dark empath is because she had some narcissism And she was very entitled and had this disposition and attitude of superiority. And she would always kind of look at you like this. So her head was always like above you a certain way. And I would just sit back and watch her, and I'm like, there's something off here. Like, there is no humility here. There is no graciousness here. You don't really care for people. So why are you even becoming a psychologist? I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. And she had some history that could have looked like she was a psychopath. She would kill animals. As a juvenile delinquent, she served some time for killing the neighbor's dog. She was just really odd, you know? And I couldn't wrap my mind around why she wanted to become a psychologist. And the more mature I was in my field, the more mature I became in my field, I thought back on her character, and I'm thinking she was probably a dark empath. She enjoyed looking like she was the loving, caring psychologist, when the reality is she killed an animal as a juvenile delinquent. She harmed some little animals like birds and frogs. And she's very narcissistic and very entitled and has an air of superiority about her. So you probably can find some people in your life that is the same exact way. All right, guys, give me 1 second here. Okay, let me keep going. Okay, guys. So yeah, Sammy. So Sammy says, that is me. It was probably something I mentioned earlier. Says, mom was sweet until my teens, and her and my father's divorce. She punished me for my father's mistakes. Yeah, absolutely. And let me just point this out as well, Sammy, that sometimes parents get worse as the children enter their adolescence. Sometimes that's because the dynamic of the family has changed. The dynamic has changed from close family, knit family, to, and I might bring this to the channel at some time, at some point. All families go through transitions over time. So usually families are like this. They're integrated, they're close up until probably around age 12 or 13. And that's when that adolescent goes through what's called individuation. That's kind of like this natural process of pulling away from the family, that natural process of becoming more independent. And sometimes that separation, or sometimes that divorce, or sometimes that affair that caused that relationship to break apart, shakes the family dynamic, and the parent, the mother, the father, switches and changed. And that's exactly what happened to my mom. My mom and my uncle, I think my mom suffered more, but my mom and my uncle had that happen to them. The family, as they were growing up, was wonderful and beautiful, and there were family dinners, and our family was very close knit, and the list goes on. It looked like a wonderful family. And then my grandfather had an affair on my grandmother, and that just broke the family apart. And so my mom's adolescence was really rocky. My mom's adolescence was rocky, because during that time of adolescence, my grandmother had changed. She started drinking a lot and just feeling like a failure and struggling, and the list goes on. So you're right, Sammy. Sometimes, once that divorce happens, the dynamic shifts. Now, if you're dealing with a dark empath parent, that shift can still happen. Especially if that dark empath, is very narcissistic or psychopathic, and they feel like you destroyed their life, or that spouse destroyed their life, or whatever. They can change. The dynamic can shift because that parent's unstable in the first place. I hope that made sense. And sometimes, and let me just throw out here, sometimes I offer that self-disclosure, number one, so you guys can see how human I am, and number two, because I think it's educational to see that, it's not just my family, it's the therapist's family as well. All right, let me keep going, guys, then we're going to jump back into the content. Yeah, Elizabeth, I'm sorry. She says this topic hits me. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I had another person that emailed me today and was like, Tamara, why do you talk about this kind of stuff? You know, she's like, can't you just talk about toxic positivity and OCD and ADHD? And I'm like, I can't. I just, these topics need to be discussed. But this person that, you know, asked me, why don't you just talk about the easy stuff, is because he was feeling like this topic would hit close to home as well. So I don't even think he's on the live chat. He's like, I'm not coming to this one. So I'm sorry, Elizabeth. Yeah, Chris Dunbar, hopefully I'm saying that right. I'm sorry if I'm not, says, how is a dark empath different from a narcissist? So a dark empath has three different characteristics. Let me demonstrate. Hold on. I'm going to grab some paper and a marker, and I'm going to demonstrate for you. All right. So this is a dark empath. Oh my goodness. All right. So this is what I want you to think about when you think of a dark empath. Give me a second here to draw it out. So Machiavellianism, I think that's how you say it. Psychopath. When I'm teaching students, this is how I do it in class, because sometimes that visual helps you see a little bit better as to what I'm getting at here. So narcissism. Ooh, I think I spelled that wrong. Don't judge me. I still have a concussion. That I'm going to blame it on that. Okay, so here's how this looks, guys. So this is a dark empath. Okay, you've got you've got Machiavellianism. I don't know if I spelled that right. You've got the psychopath, right? And then at the bottom here, you've got that narcissism. So this is a dark empath. So that's what makes it different from a narcissist. A dark empath has three things that is foundational to their character. It's foundational to their character. Three things. A narcissist tends to only have the personality trait of a narcissist. A dark empath has those three pieces to the puzzle. And that's why psychology is trying to figure out, is this the most dangerous personality that we have? Because not only is this person a narcissist, not only is this person a psychopath, but this person is cynical. And that's Machiavellianism. You know, they're cynical, they're cold, they're edgy, they may murder, or they may not. They may just make your life difficult. So Chris, that was a great question. So keep that in mind. That's the difference. A narcissist is just a narcissist. A dark empath is a narcissist, a sociopath, and then they have that Machiavellianism, that trait, which means that they get stimulation from hurting others. They are cynical, they are callous, they have no empathy. You know, it's kind of like a tornado of personality traits, and it can be very dangerous. Esther Ethereal, I hope I said that right. Hello, welcome to the chat. Says, um, everyone is off. We are all dark and light. Can't have one without the other. Yeah, I mean, if yes and no. If you bring it down to that common level of everybody's dark and light, then we're just talking about normal personality. Because yes, we all have some personality traits that are really positive, and yes, we all have those edges to ourselves selves that may not be so positive. But this is different than that. This is not common level. Everyone has a dark and a bad side. This is up here. This is a pathology. Okay. And we sometimes call it a personality pathology, meaning that the personality is warped, right? And that warped personality that creates challenges and problems for everybody's life, is what the issue is here. This is not a person with a dark personality versus a light personality, because they all, we all have that. This is a pathology. Think about a scale from 1 to 10. Most of us probably have a really wonderful side to us. That's about a 1, right? And on that scale, we probably, on a bad day, are getting upset, yelling and screaming, arguing, the list goes on. We're probably about a 5 on that scale. Somebody that has a dark somebody that meets that dark empath personality is going to be a 10 all the time. Does that make sense? So keep that in mind. That's the difference. And We don't want to make this so simplified that we miss the mark, right? These people are very calculating. These are the kind of individuals, the dark empaths, and I'm going to jump back into the content in a little bit here. These dark empaths are the individuals who go to therapy. They become attracted to the therapist. They find ways to get into the life of the therapist. They stalk the therapist's family, right? And then they try to have an affair with the therapist. That is pretty much an example of a dark empath. Not all dark empaths, but some dark empaths. And it's because, again, they have that trait of Machiavellianism, which is they get stimulation. Sorry, guys, I have something in my eye. They get stimulation from harming other people. Okay? I hope that makes sense. All right, let's jump back into the content, and I promise you I will get to your comments. I'm so behind, but I'm going to get to your comments. Let's talk about their maladaptive clusters, okay? So a dark empath has what we call maladaptive, it's kind of like a maladaptive cluster, okay? And it's kind of like this circle of really bad personality traits. And here's what we see. Okay. Hold on, guys. I just received a text and I have to respond to this. So there's uh-oh, that was the wrong button. There's kind of like a cluster of kind of like behavioral patterns that you are likely to see in a dark empath. So I think there's three that's most important, but I'm gonna mention a couple more. There's this exploitive foundation of this person. This person is just an exploitive person. They love to exploit people. They love to harm them. They love to manipulate, and they get some kind of stimulation from seeing other people desperate, needy, and just kind of confused and perplexed about life and relationships. That is one part of the dark empath. The other piece of them is the cynical and manipulative part, right? And when you're cynical, meaning that you're cold-hearted and you're manipulative at the same time, you're likely to cause some real damage in somebody's life. The issue is, what is that thing that's going to help strike that match that makes that dark empath, snap and become cynical and become manipulative, they also tend to have an exaggerated sense of entitlement. These dark empaths. So let's say you have a dark empath sister. Instead of her being humble and gracious and offering to help you in life, she has always been competitive. And that competitive spirit kind of takes over your relationship. You can't really bond, you can't really be there for each other, and you feel on the inside that something's wrong between the two of you as siblings, although you can't really put your finger on it because she's never really done anything that bad to you. Right? This is all an example. She hasn't really done anything. She's been a competitive sibling, but that's about it. Right? Because again, dark empaths check out. They look good. They always look good. They look good on paper. They look good to other people. So it's hard to show others this person's evil. But this sister, right, has always been competitive, and you've never had peace of mind because of how competitive this sister is. So there's often this deep sense of entitlement and this exaggerated sense of superiority. That's the next one. They also tend to have what's called affective and interpersonal deficits. So affective, AFFECT, so emotional deficits, and then they also tend to have relational deficits. They become relationally aggressive, which could include stalking. It can include stalking by proxy or gang stalking. It can also include spreading rumors that are not true, ostracizing you and kind of Xing you off from the in group, right? So they're very relationally aggressive, right? And they also have this grandiose thinking. Keep in mind, I'm sorry, that's my mom texting me. Oh my goodness. Hold on, guys. When mom texts, I better respond. Okay, all good. So where was I at, guys? Oh, grandiose thinking. So these individuals have this grandiose way that they think about themselves and they see themselves. An example of that might be a sibling who is really exaggerative and believes that they can see things and tell the future and talk to ghosts, and the list goes on, that kind of superiority. And on the lower end of the spectrum could just be this grandiose thinking of, I'm really important, I'm very attractive, I'm very smart, the list goes on. Okay, so there's some grandiosity there as well. And a part of this cluster, you want to keep in mind that there's that Machiavellianism. There's that emotional and psychological stimulation that they get when they one up you, when they compete against you and they win, when they see you crying and not having the money or the possessions to do what you need to do. That stimulates them, right? Putting up barriers so that you don't get that job promotion, that is stimulating to them. That makes them feel superior and grandiose. So these are the kind of individuals that we're talking about here, guys. They seriously engage in behaviors that can disrupt your life. And again, thankfully, I haven't had to counsel a dark empath, but have I sat next to a dark empath at a conference and as a colleague? Have I worked alongside a dark empath? And have I also been mentored at times in my past by a dark empath? Most definitely. Most definitely. There's that sense of entitlement, that grandiose thinking, that cynical side of them, that narcissism, that psychopathy. They don't care whose toes they step on to get ahead. And then, of course, they tend to they tend to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? There is no reciprocity in that relationship, right? So if this is a mentor, there's no reciprocity, right? It's all one way. It's all one way. It's all them and everything they want, or the highway. All right, guys. So let's talk about some of the problematic behaviors. What is going on here? Hold on, guys. Let's talk about the problematic behaviors that they engage in. I'm going to turn my phone off because it is literally distracting me. I think I'm worse than a child when it comes to my phone. Someone texts me and I'm like, what's going on? So I'm going to turn this off. Come on. And then I will get into the problematic behaviors. The problematic behaviors, you have probably seen this in the dark empath, whether it is, there we go, whether it is a parent, a coworker, you probably have seen these problematic behaviors. And the first one that you're likely to see is there's what we call premeditated aggression. There's kind of like this thought process of, I'm going to hurt this person. I'm going to go after their spouse. I'm going to exploit this individual. I'm going to manipulate that over there. I'm going to be the best person on the job, and I'm going to make sure that my boss sees that I'm the best one for this job. Or I'm going to go to law school and become the best attorney in the world and show my other family members who never made it that I'm better than them. So there's kind of like this premeditated aggression. There's also this intense feeling of superiority. The dark empath colleague that I remember having would make statements about the clients that she would see. And she would say things like, I can't believe a mother would literally put their kid in daycare. I think that's horrible. I really think that's a low-life thing to do. She said that to me during a conference we were at. And somebody in the audience who wasn't a professional raised their hand and they were like, I can't go to school unless I send my kid to a daycare, but I don't want to have to put my kid in the daycare. And as soon as that mom sat back down, my colleague was like, tapping me on my arm, and she's like, can you believe a parent would be so selfish as to go to school and get an education and put their kid in daycare? Can you believe that? And I just sat there like, this is unbelievable. And throughout that whole 8-hour conference, she just made snide remarks and snarky remarks and just rude and entitled and superior and just narcissistic. And every day she would come to work and her appearance was always so prim and proper and well put together. Makeup was on point. You know, she just looked like she could never do any harm to anybody. But her past was terrible in terms of being a psychopath. I'm not going to go over that for confidentiality reasons. But let's just say that she was in a lot of legal trouble at one time. There was forgery of a lot of money. The list goes on. She became a psychotherapist over time, and her narcissism and her psychopathy continued. It never ended. The scary part is that she has a degree. She's an attractive psychotherapist, has a business, and I just feel for those clients. That's where I'm going to leave that. But that's basically something that you're going to see. It's kind of like that deep-seated superiority. It never changes, even when that individual is in trouble, legal trouble, relationship trouble, job trouble, whatever. That person doesn't change. That is constant. That deep sense of superiority. There's that relational aggression I talked about earlier, guys. I'm not going to go over that again. There's also this passive aggressive disposition to some of these dark empaths. They're not going to come right out and say, you know, I think I'm better than you. There's always going to be this undercurrent, you know, emotional sense that you get inside of yourself that says, oh, they think they're better than me. It's that intuitive something is wrong here, that intuitive calling that you're going to feel in the presence of someone who's a dark empath, because they tend to have this passive aggressive disposition. They can appear really sweet and honest, but listen to what they say, listen to how they say it, and it's a totally different thing. Right? It doesn't even, you know, it doesn't mean what they verbalized, right? I hope that made sense. Research also suggests that these dark empaths may actually have what's called dark emotional intelligence, meaning that they are evil at the core and they utilize their emotional intelligence to manipulate other people, to harm other people, to steal from other people, to stalk and get what they want from other people. Things like that. So they call it dark emotional intelligence. Okay, let me go back to the chat box. I'm going to give you guys a few problematic traits so you can say, yep, check, 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 check. I think I live with a dark empath. But we're going to get to that, okay, guys? Esther Ethereal, I hope I'm saying that right, says, when you're raised by narcs, you're going to become that way too, because you become like them when you distance yourself from everyone and become more self-centered to take care of yourself. Yeah, I mean, sometimes narcissism can be learned. I have a lot of clients, patients that I see outside of my practice, especially if I'm doing work with the local police department, if I'm doing work with a hospital, I will occasionally come across individuals who have parents as narcissists and they're wonderful as children. And what I end up seeing is the parent puts the pressure on the child to be wonderful and to be great and to shoot for the stars and never to embarrass the family, and always put your best foot forward and never make a mistake, never get an A-. You always want to get an A+. Those kind of parents, they put that pressure on the child. That child grows up over time, right? And that's the message that then becomes an internalized message. You internalize what your parents say and do to you. Even if they're abusive parents, you still internalize messages from them. And so kids who are raised under narcissistic parents or dark empath parents, they internalize all those messages. Kids are one of the reasons why I specialize in child psychotherapy or child psychology is because I love how children think. If you just sit and give them some time, they'll teach you some things. And so, kids are so smart, some of them, that they can even internalize mom and dad's unspoken rules, unspoken language, right? Let's say, for example, you're in a grocery store and your child is watching you interact with other people in that grocery store. If you come across as rude, disrespectful, bogartish, arrogant, disregarding of other people in the grocery store, that child is taking that in, right? And so growing up under that narcissist, you internalize all of that and then you become it. So, Esther, that is correct. I very much agree with that. In short, that is correct. SH, hello, welcome to the chat. So glad to have you tonight. I'm going to be signing off here pretty soon. I want to go over a few more things and then I'm signing off because we're way over time again. SH says, they say, oh, yes, like a very astute salesman, but nothing is free. They are there for some reason. Absolutely. Dark empaths can seem like a salesperson. They want to give you all the things that, they know you want, but you never get to the core of who they are as a person. It's almost like they have layers and layers and layers of defenses, and they just hide themselves. Denise Cecilinsky, I hope I said that right. Hello, welcome to the chat. Glad to have you tonight. M. Neil Odell, hello, welcome to the chat. I apologize if I mispronounced that. Says dark empathy is a narcissistic trait, also happens with other cluster B disorders. Dark empathy, yeah, dark empathy can also be a part of the borderline personality, I'm going to say cluster, because sometimes dark empaths are really emotional and they are really reactive, which makes them appear genuine. But again, it's that cognitive empathy. They only get you up here, they don't get you in here. So you're right. Yeah, you're right. We can say that dark empaths can be found in other cluster B traits, like borderline personality. Yes. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. Yeah. One Love says, that's my mom's sister. I agree. Very dangerous. Yeah, absolutely. For those of you who may have just signed on, I was talking about a sibling who was just really competitive and really mean. And, once you play this back, you'll see what I was talking about. R.A. Andrews says, I think there are very many dark empaths slithering about. It has been my experience, maybe because my sibling is one. Yeah, I mean, again, a dark empath is tricky, They seem like they're these genuine, well-rounded individuals, and they constantly have something on their mind that they want from you, that they're going to do to you, or that they're not going to do, right? So, yeah, these people are just, ooh, they're interesting. Let me keep going. Galactic Rose, hello, welcome to the chat. Glad to have you tonight. Says, wow, this has me thinking if I'm a dark empathy or a dark empath, although I have a lot of empathy for others and a good person. I'm confused. Exactly. And I'm glad you pointed that out. Let me go back over it one more time before we move on, because I want you guys to recognize that it's not like somebody that is empathic and loving and emotional and reactive and responsive to other people's needs, wants, and desires. It's not like that's a bad thing. The dark empath the dark empath at the core is a narcissist. At the core is a psychopath. At the core is that Machiavellianism. So keep that in mind. You may be a loving, empathic, caring person. I consider myself very empathic. If I have a client that's crying, I'm crying with them. If I have a client or a child that wants to hug me, I'm hugging them too. So I tend to be loving and empathic and responsive to others' internal states. Okay, but a dark empath can look that way, and at the core, and you're probably going to see that core over time. At the core, they're a narcissist. At the core, they're a psychopath. At the core, they get really intense pleasure from seeing other people hurt. I hope that defines it for you guys. I know it's a little tricky. One Love says, I'm online contact with 3 biological family members. That's it. I'm good away from them. Yeah, I don't blame you. Sometimes you do have to draw that line in the sand with your family members and be like, we're not the same. I'm sorry. I love you from way over here, but we're not the same. Susu, hello, welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. I don't remember seeing you before, so welcome. Says, is a dark empath the same as vulnerable narc? I would say no, because a vulnerable narcissist is just a narcissist. A vulnerable narcissist is just a narcissist. Somebody who's a dark empath, again, guys, has these 3 things: Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and narcissism. You got to keep that in mind. That is so hard to grasp, isn't it? when I started learning about dark empaths a couple of years ago, I was literally like this. Okay, looking at my textbook, I'm like, what the heck? And so don't feel bad if you feel confused, because it's taken me literally all my career to understand these different personality traits. And my career spans 15 years at this point. So don't feel bad. Keep in mind, a narcissist is just a narcissist. A dark empath is a narcissist, a psychopath, and they have that Machiavellianism. Great question. Thank you for that. That was a good one. Tia Bates, hello. Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you as well. Cheryl says, I feel like they used the word empath to confuse people. I know. When I was studying this a couple of years ago, I was like, why are we even using the word empath? Like, this makes absolutely no sense, like some of the other things in the field. But I'm like, this makes absolutely no sense. Why are we doing this? I don't think the field of psychology knew how to describe it any better. And so the best way to describe it is to say this person comes across as an empath, when the reality is underneath they're cynical, they're self-centered, they're entitled, they're grandiose, all of that. So they use the word empath, I think, to say that these people are empathic in one sense, but they are dark and evil under the surface. And so you're never going to have that full loving empath. They seem like they're empathic. I know. I'm with you, Cheryl. I am. Tia Bates says, what makes people end up this way? Yeah. So research suggests a combination of three things. Learning, so environment, what you've seen. Remember, I just brought up how children internalize messages even when you're not speaking. If they acknowledge that mom is over there acting superior to that woman over there, that's an internalized message that they've taken in. And so that's learning. So learning, environmental influence, right? So that could be learning or watching other people or trying out different attitudes as a teenager. Biology, because narcissism and psychopathy come from a biological place, right? So it's genetic. So you've got the learning, you've got the environmental influence, and you've got the biology. And some research studies do point to trauma, but I don't think we're close enough to really understanding the dark empath to understand that trauma is at the core of some dark empaths. I'm going to post all this in the description box for you as soon as this goes off. I'm starting to stutter. That means it's time to go. Great question, Tia Bates. Thank you for that. That was great. All right, let me give you guys the other problematic traits, and then we're going to wrap up. I'm going to give you guys the rest of the traits, go to the chat box for a little bit, and then we're going to wrap up. Alicia Riggs, hello, welcome to the chat. I just saw you. I apologize for that long awaited welcome, but welcome to the chat. Okay, let me jump back in. Okay, guys, so the problematic traits that you are likely to see, I'm going to highlight two things that I mentioned at the very beginning of this chat that you want to keep at the forefront of your mind. If you're sitting and watching this live chat and saying, I think I have a dark empath parent, then keep in mind these two important things, that you want to be able to decipher between cognitive empathy and emotional empathy. So the problem here is that sometimes it's hard to tease apart when a person is able to conceptualize empathy and when a person is able to actually act or respond in an empathic way. And so the first sign, excuse me guys, the first sign of a dark empath is somebody who doesn't have the ability to emotionally respond. You feel that they are cold at the core. They say all the right things, they do all the right things, but somewhere on the inside it feels disconnected. And I'm sure some of you can probably relate to that. So you want to be able to decipher between emotional empathy and cognitive empathy. The other thing is there's this lack of what we call vicarious sharing of emotional states. Let me go over that again. There's a lack of vicarious sharing of emotional states, meaning you're in a relationship, you think you love this person, you feel that you guys are clicking and getting along. This is outside of the family context, by the way. And you feel like, I think I want to spend the rest of my life with this person. That other person who is the dark empath doesn't feel that way. And instead of talking to you about it and being honest, they totally write you off, close up their apartment, move to another state, block your phone number, refuse to talk to you, block you on social media, and there you are sitting with all of that pain that I wanted to tell this person I'm in love with them. I wanted to tell this person I want to marry you, and I don't know what that button is that I pushed, but they've blocked me and I can't find them. So there's this lack of reciprocal sharing of emotional states. You're deep in the relationship, and that person is like, I can take you or leave you. Right? So again, there's that lack of reciprocal sharing of emotional states. There's also this desire to kind of draw you into them with their empathy, but then they also keep you at bay because, in a sense, these individuals are insecure in some areas, and that would be considered a vulnerable narcissist, right? That's that individual who is kind of appearing to have a low self-esteem. They kind of have this woe is me disposition. So that vulnerable narcissism is what's going to creep up. And so sometimes these people draw you in with their kindness, their empathy, their love and compassion. But then when you get close, they kind of push you away too because of that narcissism. Remember, there's that narcissism at the core of the dark empath. So if they're a vulnerable narcissist, for example, they're going to come across as low self-esteem, has no personal insight, feels that they're a loser, feels that they're never going to be successful. So you've got this woe is me kind of disposition. And so those kind of narcissists, they kind of keep you at bay, right? Because they don't want you to see what they're really about, and they're insecure. And so sometimes, again, these dark empaths, they'll draw you in because they seem loving, but at the core of who they are, they don't want you anywhere near them. Think of the nice, sweet granny that lives next door to you. She's very entitled, very superior acting, grandiose sense of self, right? She seems very discriminatory, maybe even prejudiced, maybe a little bit rude to everybody in the neighborhood. She kind of has that rough edge, but she'll bring you a pie if it's Christmas. But just know that once Christmas is over, at the core of who she is, she's cynical. Right? So that's kind of what I'm talking about. Okay, did I give you all of them? One last one. Sometimes the dark empath will come across as believable, but underneath the surface, they are not. So you're probably going to run into some lying behaviors, that pathological lying, that constant lying that keeps you in this loop. Okay, this is also a part of the dark empath. Sometimes that psychopath part of who they are can kind of wrap you up in their lies, and you're probably going to feel that half of what they're telling you is probably not true, right? Most of us as human beings, we're very, very intuitive, and we know when someone's lying to us. And sometimes if we're not sure, we have that twinge of maybe you're lying to me. And so with a dark empath, that psychopathic side of who they are can cause them to really engage in a series of lies. Maybe they're not really a doctor after all. Maybe they really haven't been married just once. Maybe it's been 20 times. Maybe that girl over there that he claims is his best friend is really his wife. Maybe my cousin over there who said she would pay me back all the thousands she borrowed will never pay me back. So don't forget that psychopath piece is also in there. And so pathological lying is probably a personality trait you're going to run into as well. All right. In conclusion, let me go to the chat box and we're going to wrap up, guys. All right, let me make sure. Jessica J, hello, welcome to the chat. I'm so sorry I couldn't welcome you sooner. Glad to have you though. Says, my brother killed the neighbor's dog with poison meat and told me about it. I never knew what to think about that. Yeah, absolutely. Now you can either look at a dark empath this way. Either you're a dark empath and you're a psychopath and a narcissist, or you have kind of like this antisocial personality where you don't like animals, you don't like human beings, you're not quite a dark empath because you don't come across as caring, you just do really mean things and really cold, callous things. Maybe you're strictly a psychopath. So you want to be able to differentiate that as well, which is really difficult if you're not a psychologist. But it's good to kind of consider, is this just a psychopath who's cold, right? Or is this a dark empath who comes across as loving, but they enjoy killing animals? So you want to decipher between those two. Anyways, says some people seek position of authority to gain access to vulnerable people they can control or abuse undetected. Absolutely. Fields that have people that you have access to, right, that you can harm would be being a teacher, right? Most teachers are wonderful. But think of those teachers who have sexual relationships with their students. Think of that, right? You're just sitting and watching the national news, and across the TV screen is that a seventh grade teacher, excuse me, who's now had a sexual relationship with a 10-year-old or the 11-year-old or the 12-year-old. I'm forgetting what age you are when you're in seventh grade. Or the teacher who waited until her student turned 18 to run off and get eloped, right? Don't forget about those people who have served a lot of jail time online as predators, talking to adolescents and children through Roblox or through some of the video games where you have chat rooms and forums, right? So you're right. Anyways, sometimes it's easy to get into those fields or in those particular zones where you can abuse and harm people. That's absolutely correct. And you're likely to find a dark empath there as well. Okay, hold on, guys, because my chat box is cluttered because I'm so behind tonight. Liberty Can, hello, welcome to the chat. So glad to have you tonight. I also see D Jane Julie, hello, welcome to the chat. I don't remember seeing you before, so welcome. Thank you, Cherries Jubilee, for that wonderful contribution. I love you. I appreciate you for that. Thank you. I always tell you guys you don't have to, but when you do, I am grateful. So thank you. Cherries Jubilee says, thank you so much for making my life feel seen. Finally, I love and appreciate you. Oh my God, Cherries Jubilee, I love and appreciate you too. Thank you so much. That's so, so sweet of you. Thank you. Jillian Maloney, I hope I said that right. Hello, welcome to the chat. Says, I'm dealing with one who purposely doesn't flush, rinse the sink, or clean up after himself. Oh my God. Oh, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. Okay, I don't know what to say about that one. This person needs therapy. That's the only, that's the only thing I can say about that one. But let me say, I do agree with you, that is so annoying. So annoying. Oh, and I hate that. And especially if it's a guy, right? You're like, would you please, you know? So, yeah. I don't know if they're a dark empath, but those kind of people can be a little frustrating. Galactic Rose says, Tam, do you only accept clients for PA? No. So I practice in a few different states. The issue though right now is I can't take on any more clients. I'm literally maxed out. I'm literally maxed out a week. I'm seeing at least 63 clients, give or take cancellations, or the fact that I have a migraine and I need to go home. But that's basically it. I'm booked out until February at this point. But feel free to email me. I'll try to get you in. I certainly will. And for those of you who have been asking, have you gotten to my email? I am working my way through comments. I couldn't do it last weekend. I still have concussion symptoms. And so the computer is horrific for my migraines, for my eyes, for my concussion. So I haven't been able to get back to you guys, but I promise I will. Okay. I don't want you to feel like I'm ignoring you. Catalina O'Hara, hello, welcome to the chat. Glad to have you tonight as well. Yeah, anyway, says, sucks. This sucks so bad when this person is your mother. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Nobody wants a dark empath as a mother because you're tricked, right? You think this is a good mom, but you feel tricked, duped, you know? Okay. Let me just make sure I'm scanning over everybody's comments. T Mac, hello, welcome to the chat. I saw you detracted your comment, but I do want to welcome you. So welcome to the chat. Glad to have you as well. Yeah, SH says scary. Absolutely. Van Ashton. Oh, I'm going to mess this up. Van Ashton Shalom. I'm messing that up. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. That's rough on me. Tell me how to say it, and I'll say it right the next time. I promise. I promise. T Max says, welcome to the chat, by the way. I don't know if I said welcome, so welcome to you. T Max says, of the few dark empaths that I know, what I see that they have in common is that when you check them on their behavior aggressively, they become cowards. Then it sort of becomes a cat and mouse game. Yeah, sometimes that is the case, right? A dark empath, a narcissist, a psychopath, they don't want you to catch them at their game. The minute you show them that you're on to them, then the claws come out, right? Because now you're a threat to the image that they have put out there about themselves, which is that they're empathic, right? My mom is a very wise woman, and she used to say something to me that I just could never digest. I've always been kind of like this in my younger years, in my 20s, my early 30s, my adolescence. I've always been this kind of individual that's like, oh my God, that person over there is wrong, and I'm going to do something about it. That's always been kind of like my character. And my mom has always been the kind of mom that kind of like holds me back, like, please leave them alone. Don't. And here's why. Because and I'm directing this to you, T Mac, because you're right. Here's why. My mom knows that sometimes you don't have to respond. Sometimes you don't have to respond to evil, to darkness, to psychopathy, to narcissism. You don't have to respond to it, because once you do, the cat's out of the bag, right? So my mom has always been that kind of mom with me, where she's like, pulling me back, like, don't, and I'm like, let me go. And my mom's like, no, you're not going to say that. You're not going to report them. You're not. And that's, again, because once those claws come out, you know, sometimes that game is started and you don't have all the equipment that you need to face it. And so there you are on the battle lines with little nails, and that dark empath, that narcissist, that psychopath, whatever, has those claws out, right? So, T Mac, you make a really good point. I hope my analogy was clear and helpful to the rest of you, but that's something to kind of envision for yourself in your own world. Do I really need to battle this? Do I really need to put on my boxing gloves with this person? Or do I need to hold myself back and refrain, because if I say something or do something, this may be ugly, you know? Mary Poppins says, he lies all the time, copies jokes I make literally word for words. He said he picked this position because I was there, standing in the way of my promotions. I gotta be him somehow. Yeah, ooh, that's a rough one. So you will see the dark empaths, sometimes they will clone other people. They will clone other people. And I've seen this in my profession, where a colleague has literally tried to clone one of the best mentors of all time in the field of psychology. I've also seen other professionals try to mimic other therapists, other doctors, lawyers, judges, whatever, because the only way that they can keep their empathic facade up is if they clone your behaviors and they see that you're wonderful. They're going to clone that. They're going to clone that. All right, guys. Hello, G. Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you tonight. All right, guys, I could be on here all night with you, and you guys are seeing so many wonderful things. I usually go back and scroll through. Hello, Daima. Welcome to the chat. Glad to see you here tonight. I usually, once this is off, later on tonight, so you're probably not going to get any of the links, the resources tonight. You will get them tomorrow. On this chat, I'll post everything, the research, the links, the books, the articles, everything that you need. But I usually go back and I read through. So anything that I don't get to tonight, I will get to. And if you want to post in the comments section after this goes off, please do. I'll get to you there. Thank you so much, guys, for being with me tonight. You guys did such a great job helping each other and helping me and making this a really, really wonderful live chat. I will probably hold my video. I have a video on dark empaths that has some really cool information in there for you. I don't know if I'm going to post that Sunday. We'll see. We'll see how the algorithm takes things, because I think this live chat was so long that it kind of needs to be on the channel and kind of, you know, kind of flourish on the channel for a little bit before I post the next thing. So stay tuned. Okay, I'm going to tell you if the video is going to come or not. Thank you so much, guys. I love you so much. Thank you for your continual support. You are helping me help other people and help you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend and a safe weekend. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.